On today's broadcast, President Park Geun-hye hopes Indonesia will help convince North Korea to do the right thing. The nominee to lead South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff says North Korea can make nuclear bombs small enough to fit on a missile, and prosecutors raid a major South Korean conglomerate on tax evasion allegations. This is KBS World Radio News. I'm Bruce Harrison. A newspaper in Indonesia reports President Park Geun-hye has called for the country's active role in persuading North Korea to make the right decisions. The Daily Compass in Jakarta says Park Geun-hye said she believes the Indonesian president can play a constructive role in leading North Korea to make the right choices. Park also said the Indonesian president has a deep understanding of Korean Peninsula affairs, and Indonesia traditionally shares favorable ties with the North. Park told the newspaper South Korea has continued humanitarian aid to North Korea regardless of the political situation, while sternly responding to Pyongyang's nuclear development and provocations. She also said South Korea has kept open a window for talks and is working to build inter-Korean trust. Park said it's not right for North Korea to inject all its resources into nuclear development at a time when its people are suffering from famine. The South Korean president also used the opportunity to explain her Northeast Asian Peace and Cooperation Initiative. Citing geopolitical conflicts in East Asia, such as the territorial dispute between China and Japan, Park admitted it would be difficult to resolve those conflicts through a multilateral consultative channel right away. She suggested gradually expanding regional cooperation first in more accessible areas such as disaster relief, atomic energy safety, and climate change. She said multilateral cooperation can eventually be expanded to politics and security. Visiting Indonesia for a state visit in the final leg of her tour to Southeast Asia, President Park will hold the Seoul-Jakarta summit on Saturday. The nominee for South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, Choi Yoon-hee, has expressed great concerns about the development of North Korea's nuclear technology. At his confirmation hearing, Choi said the South must have the right systems in place to deter missile threats, and only when conditions are right can Seoul take over wartime control of Allied forces. Our Kim Bum-soo has more.
Seoul's nominee for Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman believes North Korea is capable of making small nuclear warheads. At the parliamentary confirmation hearing on Friday, Admiral Choi Yoon-hee did not specify how small the North can make its warheads, but it is known warheads lighter than 1,000 kilograms can be loaded onto intercontinental ballistic missiles. Choi said the South Korea-U.S. alliance must first exercise their deterrent strategy to prevent Pyongyang from using such weapons. He added, if the strategy fails and signs of an impending atomic attack are detected, the South will carry out a preemptive attack on the North using the kill chain, an integrated precision strike system by South Korea and the U.S. In the event the surgical kill chain strike fails, he said the Korea air and missile defense system must be in place to intercept approaching missiles. At the hearing, the nominee also cited his assessment on North Korean nuclear capabilities, as he said the planned transfer of wartime command from the U.S. to South Korean forces should be based on the ever-changing enemy threats. Choi emphasized the transition will have massive consequences to Korean Peninsula security, but agreed the transfer eventually needs to happen. He called for an examination to determine whether conditions have matured to realize a transfer. Kim Bum-soo, KBS World Radio News.
A senior U.S. government official says the United States is working with the Chinese to make North Korea realize denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is the only option. The official is currently accompanying U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry on his Asia tour, and also remarked Thursday that the only viable end is a nuclear-free end. On a recent meeting between South Korean President Park Geun-hye and Kerry, the official said the two completely agreed on North Korea-related issues. Kerry met with President Park and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang on the sidelines of the ASEAN Plus 3 meeting in Brunei earlier this week. North Korea's Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of the Fatherland has criticized a joint naval drill involving U.S. nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS George Washington, calling it a grave military provocation. The North's official Korean Central News Agency quoted the committee as saying on Friday, "It's outrageous South Korea, the U.S., and Japan mobilized enormous forces, more than enough to carry out a war, while claiming the exercises are simple search and rescue drills." The committee also condemned the three countries for urging the North to abandon nuclear weapons and quit provocative acts, calling it preposterous. The General Staff of the North Korean People's Army on Monday denounced the entrance of the USS George Washington into the port of Pusan, instructing all military forces to maintain combat mobilization readiness. The government says about half of North Korean spies arrested over the past decade came to South Korea pretending to be escapees. Main opposition Democratic Party Representative Shim Jae-kwon said 49 North Korean spies were caught and arrested by South Korean authorities from 2003 to 2013. Citing Justice Ministry data, Shim said 21 of the arrested spies entered the South posing as defectors. He said the human rights and safety of North Korean escapees must be protected as much as possible, but it should draw attention that many posed as defectors. Shim also said the high ratio suggests there are problems with the National Intelligence Service's background investigations and the Unification Ministry's management of escapees.
You're now listening to the news from KBS World Radio's News Center in Seoul, Korea.
Prosecutors are raiding Hyosung Group over allegations the conglomerate evaded hundreds of billions of won in taxes. The raid is focused on the home of the group's chairman Cho Suk-rae, the headquarters of Hyosung Capital, and 6 other locations. It began at 7:30 a.m. Friday. Prosecutors are seizing computer hard disks, account books, and internal reports. The Seoul Regional Tax Office launched a probe in May on Hyosung Group and filed a complaint to the prosecution against the conglomerate, Cho, and Vice Chairman Lee Sung-woon. Prosecutors suspect the conglomerate engaged in accounting fraud to hide massive losses it incurred abroad after the 1997 Asian financial crisis. They say they suspect it evaded corporate taxes of around 1 trillion won. Prosecutors also believe Cho and his family managed more than 100 billion won in slush funds and borrowed name accounts since the 1990s and evaded paying income taxes. Hyosung Group has blasted the latest allegations, saying funds held in such accounts are not slush funds. A public auction will begin for the seized assets of former President Chun Doo-hwan's family to pay off some 167 billion won the ex-president owes the nation. The Korea Asset Management Corporation said it launched auction-related procedures after the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office requested that 2 properties owned by Chun's family, worth roughly 21 billion won, be put to public sale. One of the 2 properties is a building in Seoul that belongs to Chun's 3rd son, and other property includes a forest land and house in Annyeong, Gyeonggi Province, owned by Chun's daughter. The asset management firm plans to put up the 2 properties for competitive bidding from November 25th via an online auction system after appraisals. South Korea's import and export prices fell at the same time in September following a drop in the won-dollar exchange rate. The Bank of Korea said Friday that the export price index slipped 2.4% from August to 93.09 in September. That's the lowest figure in 8 months. A drop in export prices leads to worsened profitability of exporting firms. The import price index fell 2.3% during the same period to roughly 102 in September. A drop in import prices can lead to a drop in consumer prices. The World Bank's Korea office is expected to open later this year in an international business center west of Seoul. Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Hyun Oh-suk met with World Bank President Jim Yong Kim in Washington on Friday and finalized a deal to open the Korea headquarters in Songdo. The World Bank office is expected to open in December after the agreement is ratified in Parliament. A separate liaison office will also be opened in capital Seoul. An expert on the Korean language has called for measures to narrow the widening culture and language gaps between the 2 Koreas. Emeritus Professor Yi Ju-heng of Chung'an University expressed his concerns Friday at a seminar on the different nature of the Korean language between the two Koreas. He said South and North Korean TV and radio programs should be allowed for viewing across the border, and a joint translation research center should be established. The seminar was organized by Dream Makers for North Korea, a private foundation based in Seoul for South Korean prisoners of the Korean War and North Korean escapees. At the seminar, a North Korean escapee majoring in business administration at Seoul National University said many escapees suffer hardships in adjusting to South Korean society due to the language gap and end up not speaking at all. South Korea's benchmark Korea Composite Stock Price Index KOSPI on Friday rose 23.5 points or 1.17%, closing at 2,024.9. Tech-heavy Kosdaq went up 3.56 points or 0.67% to close at 532.6. On the Seoul Foreign Exchange Market, the local currency gained 2.2 won against the U.S. dollar to close at 1,071.4 won.